Three things we'll cover in this lesson. Number one, we need to structure the database to be able to receive this form data. Number two, we're going to look at the workflows. So how do we carry this data from the form into the database? And number three, we'll talk about the user experience, such as what does a user expect after clicking the Save button? Do they get feedback? What is that? Let's dive in. One of the quick changes I wanted to make is sometimes inputs are slightly smaller in a dashboard setting. And having a break, having my lunch earlier, then coming back, looking at these inputs that don't have placeholders, I think they're too big. So let's change them all to 40. So I'm going to hold Shift to highlight both of the standard inputs, and on the Layout tab, choose 40. I wouldn't go smaller than this. It becomes difficult to work with them. On the Location, on the Layout tab, 40. And this is going to be 80. Okay, so to be able to receive this data and put it into the database, we need to create these fields: first name, last name, about, and location. Now, if I click into the first name input, I can see that the content format is text. And this is important because we can have multiple content formats. We can have numbers, geographical locations, all sorts. And Bubble does this as a way of creating form validation. So we are correctly guiding the user to be able to input the correct data. So when we do get to the database section right now, I'm going to make sure that first name is a type of field that accepts text. And when it gets down to the drop down, I'll say that it needs to actually be option set data, because that's what the location is pulling in, a list from an option set. Okay. So in the data tab, on the user, we currently have a user type. Very well. Let's create a new field. Let's call this name first. And this is the field type that needs to match the input. So this is type text, okay? Text, create. Do the same for name last. That is also type text. And then about is a multi-line input, which is obviously text. And then the drop-down is linking to an option set. And we want to save one of these options, just one of them. So here it is here, providing all the locations. The user is selecting one, and then we're clicking on Save. Okay, so let's head back to data types, user type, and create a new field. Let's call this location. And these field names only we can see as developers, okay? And this is an option set location. Create. Fantastic. Let's now hook up our workflow. So back on the Save button, I'm going to add a new workflow. Let's have a look at the options here. So data and things. And now we have, the first one is create a new thing. The second one is make changes to a thing. Let's think about this logically. Once we've signed up and we're filling out this form, well, we are a logged in user and we exist. So we're not creating a thing, because that is basically creating a new row or new record in the database. In this instance, we are a user, but we have some blank fields. So we are updating or making changes to a thing, the thing being us. So make changes to thing. Who are we making changes to, or what are we making changes to? The current user. Now I'm going to click the shortcut, add all fields. And all we do now is reference those inputs. So about is a multi-line input. The input about value, sorry, I removed the multi-line input. I should have left it in there. Location is the drop-down. How cool is that? We can just point to the drop-down because the drop-down has a data source and we're saving the value of the selection. Name first. Input name first, the value. Same for the last name. Name last, the value. And the user type is already set. We don't need it. I'm going to delete it. Okay, so that will then save this data to the database, to the Bubble server. And we need a way to then also display a message back to a user that it's been successfully saved or it hasn't been saved. So for that, we need an alert. So let's head back to the visual elements and find the alert element, and then just sort of drop it anywhere on the page. We're going to reposition it in a second. We're going to type in successfully saved. And I'm going to click to position it at the top. And then I'm just going to, on the layout tab, it does need to be a fixed width. I'm going to bring this down so it fits nice and snug. Yeah, I'm happy with 180. Let's design this a bit better. Let's make this green. Green, as in it's a successful message. So I've removed the style. I'm going to change the font color to white, and I'm going to change the background color to green. Let's have a look at that. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to make it float, okay? We can remove the borders, roundness of 6. Let's make a roundness of 8. So it matches our buttons. And then a shadow style. Let's add some outset. First of all, just change the box shadow color to our jet black, and then 10%. And you can see the design starting to change on the right-hand side here. Okay, I'm going to increase the blur radius to 8. And I'm going to change the vertical offset to 8 as well. Then I'm going to have another look. Yeah, and that floats really, really nicely. And then I'm going to go ahead and success alert. I see we have one already, but I'm just going to create a new style and say success. Okay. So let's go back to the save button once you've done and click edit workflow. Now that alert is not visible on page load. We have to show it in a workflow step. So that would be element actions, show message. Bubble has already assigned it a message because we've only created one, and that is alert successfully saved. Now this alert can be used throughout this page, and we can actually change the message that we show to a user based on the type of data that they're saving. And to do that, we'll just say next time if we want to say, instead of successfully saved, we want to say updated or edited, we can just say change alert message and type in a new message. Obviously, we'd then want to match that with a different type of message. Maybe it would be a destructive message or a warning message. Okay. So now we're capturing the data, but we also want to display the data back to a user. And that's called initial content. And initial content basically, it looks at the current user, and then it looks at the database. And if there is a first name in the database, we can display it back to them in this input, which we should be doing. Otherwise, a user thinks it's been saved, but the input's empty. Okay, so that could become confusing. So on the initial content, we're going to insert dynamic data now. It's dynamic, brilliant. Means it's coming from the database. This will be the current user and name first. Okay. Let's do the same for last name. Insert dynamic data, current user, name last. We can also do this with about, initial content, current user, about. And by the way, we can also control whether or not we want this multi-line input to grow or not. On the layout tab, I currently have a fixed height, which means the scroll bar will appear, and I just prefer it that way. I don't want this huge, if someone decides to write an essay, I don't want that to grow and grow and grow because the save button will be pushed too far down. That's not great user experience. Okay, on a drop down, we can also show a dynamic value or initial content, but we are calling it a dynamic value in a drop down. And we can basically scroll down, find the current user, and then find location. And there we go, current user's location. Now an image is a little bit different because on an image, we are not writing in an input or clicking a drop down. Instead, we are uploading something. So this is a little bit different, this workflow. So stick with me through this because this is the method that I use in my daily building life, and I'm going to teach it to you now. So you can see that there's no button to run a workflow from this picture uploader avatar. Okay, that means we have to start in the workflow tab. And we're going to click here to add an event. And that event is going to be under elements, and an inputs value has changed. And that becomes true because the picture uploader is an input. And when a user uploads an image, then the inputs value has changed. That's when we can do something. Bubble now says, where is the element? And we're going to say it's the picture uploader avatar's value. Sorry, just the element name. And this is where the fun begins, because we're uploading an image, but we can't save it to the database. We could, but we're not going to. Instead, we're going to save it to a state. And then on the save button, that's when we're going to save the state to the database. And this just enables a bit of user interaction. It enables a person to upload an image and then change their mind. Have you done that? I literally did it yesterday. I uploaded a profile image. It was the wrong one. So then I cleared it out or deleted that image and then re-uploaded it. The nice thing is we're not saving to the database during this process of user interaction. We're allowing a user to become happy with their selection, and then we're only saving to the database on the save button. So instead, we're going to set state, folks. We're going to go element actions, set state. Okay. Bubble is saying, where do you want to set the state? And in the past, I've talked about setting all of your states at page level, so you know where they are. Create a new custom state. We're going to call this avatar. What is the type? So this looks just like a database field where we're asking for the field name and the field type. Now it's the state name and the state type. So therein lies a clue that whatever we can create in the database in terms of a field type, we can also create that as a state. So then we can match these two things together. So I'm going to say state type and scroll down and find image and then create. Okay, Bubble is now saying, what is the value of this state? And this is where we're going to just point to this picture uploader's value. Okay, so now the state has been set. In the next step, what I'm going to do is something a bit different. I'm going to reset inputs. I'm going to reset inputs because a picture uploader is an input. And I actually want to clear out the default uploaded image and rather replace it with the state image. Don't worry if you're not getting this because we're going to be doing this another time and I'm sure by then it will become clear, okay? So all you need to know at the moment, a user has clicked on the picture uploader. That image has been uploaded to the element, and then we've taken that uploaded image and we've set it to a state on the page. So now I'm going to say that the dynamic image here, I'm going to point that to a state, and that is on the company, on the page. Here it is here, the avatar. Okay, it's the avatar. So what is this delete button for? Well, the delete button is basically a way to reset the state, and that will clear out that state image, go back to the default where they can then click again and upload a new image. So you can see this kind of loop, this 360-degree closure that we've created with this button. So let's add a workflow on delete. And we're simply just going to say element actions, set state, go find the state that we created. It's called avatar and it's on the company page. Then we're just going to leave the value. It will reset the state. Simple as that. So then the user deletes it out and they can upload another image. Once they're happy with this image that has been uploaded, then we're going to save the state. So I'm going to click on save, edit the workflow, and back to step one. What we do need is a way to capture and save that image. So I'm going to add another field. I'm going to call this field avatar. That is type image. Create. And this is where it's interesting because it's not the picture uploader's value, because we actually reset that, the picture uploader's value, and replace it with the state. And because the state is a type image, remember we had the little pop-up saying state name, state type, we set it to image. This database field is an avatar of type image. It's a match, therefore we can just point to the state's value. So where is the state? It's at the company on the page. Here it is down here. So it's expecting an image and it's getting an image via the state. How great is that? Love, love, love that. Okay. And there is one small, not a niggle, but just one more thing we need to take care of. So we've enabled all of the state functionality, but remember, states are reset on page load. I'm letting you think for a second. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Greg, it's not going to show them my image if it's a state, because next time they arrive at the dashboard, there is no state. So at some point, a state has to be set. So why don't we set the state with the image that's been saved to the database so we can recreate this functionality again, because maybe Hannah is coming back to update their image a third time. Okay, so I'm going to click on settings, edit the settings workflow, and then we're going to go to element actions, set state. Set it at the company level. There it is there. And currently the state is empty, but the image has probably been saved to the database. So we're going to go pull it out of the database and into this image state. So current users, avatar. Now by default, a go-to page has to be the last step. So I'm going to pick this up and move it to the next step. And it doesn't matter if the current user's avatar is empty, there is no one, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Okay, I know that's a lot to take in, guys. One small change I want to make before we test this out is on successfully saved. I just want to change the weight to medium and the size to 16 to 14. And I'm just going to make sure that in the style it's the same thing, okay? 14 and medium. I'm just trying to be consistent with text weights in this build. And then maybe on the layout tab we'll change this to 44. Yeah, we still obviously want to be able to see it, but it's green. I mean, how can you miss it in the center at the top? And actually one more thing we need to do on this alert is just set a top margin of maybe about 12, just so it's not touching the top of the page. Yeah, sitting in the center here. Okay, so yeah, you learned some new concepts there, and this is how I build my UX around picture uploaders. I use states. Can you save it directly to the database? In some instances, yes, you can, because it's the current user who exists. But I prefer this. It keeps your database clean. And we're going to come back later to also talk about how do we delete an image, because an image field in Bubble is just a link to Amazon Web Services, who Bubble uses and installs automatically for you. And that is hosted there. So we'll talk about how to delete a file a bit later on. But for now, we're done. And when we come back, we're going to sign up as Hannah and start working on updating Hannah's details. I'll see you then.